You send it on its way.
One. Well, folks, it's been way too long since my last fishing report. You're all probably wondering what happened. Well, a lot of things have happened. One is we are guides first, video photographers second. So, guiding always takes precedence, and then we try to do this during the season as much as we can. However, I do have a bunch of fishing stock video on file. But first and foremost, let me understand what was communicate to you what's been going on. One is I've done about two. I've got two fishing reports I shot, and I did actually three, and every one of them is just I'm going to delete them. They're done. Conditions in the last couple of weeks, almost 3 weeks, have changed so fast that by the time I shoot a report and ready to post it, usually 24 hours later, conditions have changed radically. So it literally makes the whole report null and void. That happened to me 3 times. Plus, as a lot of you know, in November I shift to what I call the Western Tribs to focus on brown trout, while Ricky and George and Hunter focus on the Salmon River for steelhead. So I've had to make the move from the Salmon River back to home base to do brown trout. So that creates a bunch of chaos. So unfortunately, the fishing report suffered greatly. Now that I'm done with the excuses, let's give you some information. I'm going to start out with the Salmon River, then move to the western tributaries. And what I'm also going to try to do is hopefully I can edit some little fishing clips in this report so you don't have to look at me sitting in the truck gassing off. In fact, I'm in the truck today because it's wet. It's raining. Finally, now we got a lot of rain. And I actually had to put on a dry raincoat. Got soaked pretty good. Needed some dry gear, which is a good thing. So, yeah, we are having some steady rains now. We've had a lot of rains. In fact, we did have a rain event a couple weeks ago that was significant. It actually, within 24 hours, it got over 4 inches of rain. That was a game changer, a serious game changer. So no less do we have all that rain, and the river came up. In fact, we had almost 500 CFS in runoff. That filled the reservoir. So on the Salmon River with the steelheading, right now we have a 500 CFS release with about 200 CFS of runoff. So the Pineville gauge is reading about 750. The reservoir is getting more water than it's losing. So we might see a water bump in the next week. Probably by the time we get to the report, yeah, we'll have a water bump. Or expect one this coming week. So definitely on the Salmon River, at this point, pay attention to the water flows because things can change. Things are changing a lot and changing fast. So that's going on with the water. Water temperatures are fluctuating in the mid-40s to the low 50s depending on the time. Now, I know when this thing gets up, we're going to have a cold snap. So expect our water temperatures up there to be in the upper to low 40-degree range. So it's getting cold. If we get a warm snap that bumps up into 50, that could be game on up there. But anyways, I digress. So actually what's really happening, starting out with the DSR, there's still, I kind of jokingly call it the Congo line. There's steelhead from the bottom of the Douglaston all the way up to the Warhol in the upper fly zone. So we got steelhead scattered through the system. We've also had some little jogs of fish, Chinooks coming through. So if you're fishing down in the DSR, yes, the fish are finally starting to use the pools, but still the pocket water is your best place to go for the most action. For some reason, those fish are still staying in the pocket water and they're getting concentrated in there, and we get a lot of action on the pocket water. But if you want to swing, the pools are finally being productive, and the swing fishing is picking up in there. And if we have a cold day, definitely focus in the mornings. Don't focus in the afternoons because your morning temperature, because you're in the bottom of the river and you get a cold night, those temperatures drop as the day goes on, they rise and they can come out of that thermal shock. So yeah, so if you want to fish, if you want to swing, definitely, the pools that got some fish in it are holding fish, and that style of fishing is definitely taken on its own. The other thing is we've had enough water down in the Douglaston that a lot of the eggs is finally getting washed out of the system, so that egg bite is waning. waning. Not whining. I'm whining a lot. Waning. I need more coffee. But anyways, waning. But that doesn't say that an egg-sucking leech should still not be very productive, because it's for who it may concern. And there's still some steelhead in there. Steelhead are still responding to egg patterns very well, especially in the pocket water, your egg patterns. Now, I don't have any flies out here. At some point, I'm going to call a timeout. I'll get the flies, and I'll show you some of the flies and a couple other things that we're using. But moving forward, so that's kind of what's going on. If you're swinging water and you're working the pools, even if you're pocket fishing, cover water. Just plan on coverage, because with this water's up, those fish are going to move to the Douglaston really fast. So that fish will be in the morning, probably out in the afternoon. So you want to be moving too. The fish are moving, but there's, with typical steelhead, there's often not a lot in one point. You need to move. However, you find a jag of fish, work them. So I would recommend that you stay with like the orange egg beaters, Oregon cheese, roe bugs, orange roe bugs. Probably a peachy thing would probably work pretty good. They're all working really good. Break out your favorite swing flies. It's time to go. So I'll be showing us a few fly patterns here in a few minutes here as we get along. So that's kind of what's going on down the DSR. Now as you get upriver, there's more eggs in the system, so the egg bite is far stronger. And there's a lot of fish basically right now from the Altmar to the Pineville float. The guys are doing really good from the Pineville to the 2A run too. And that section from probably 2A up, the egg bite's a lot stronger. There's a lot more spawning that was going on, so there's a lot more eggs in the system. Yep, here comes the rain again. Glad we're inside. Running cameras is expensive. So that's why I need to hit the like button. I need the support so I can pay for dead cameras. But anyways, so you find a lot more of the egg bite going on up there, through that part of the river. So if you're working under an indicator or so on, it's not to say that swing could be very productive too in those pools, because those fish are basically right now everywhere. They could be laid up in the pockets. They could be sitting in the pools. So it's a coverage game right now. But there's plenty of steelhead around that if you start covering water, whatever technique you use, you're going to find fish. And these fish are gorgeous. They are chunkers. They're really good for their size. Some of the nicest steelhead I've seen in years. So and it's actually been fishing very well, as you've probably been hearing online. The steelhead fishing has been excellent. The lower fly zone is open. It's been open since the 1st. There's a nice jag of fish in there, both some salmon and steelhead. Mostly steelhead, I think, by now. I haven't been in it. The upper flies got a lot of steelhead in that too. Once again, I think in those fly zones, it's going to be more of egg fishing and egg bite. Hit the pocket waters, work the slots. I don't think you're going to do as well swinging up there, just because there's so much eggs in the system. But you can definitely swing an egg-sucking leech up there. Can be devastating, or a zonker that looks up with a little eggy head like a hot bead bugger, or a zonker with a hot bead on it. Could be very effective swinging up there too. So that's pretty much what's going on there. Like I said, we have a 500 release. It's around 700 CFS at Pineville. I'm going to tell everybody once again, check the water flows. A good thing is we've had enough of this water now that a lot of the leaves are flushed out of the system. A lot of the dead salmon have been flushed out of the system, or flushed out of the way, I should say. You're going to find some back eddies that are going to just be full of dead salmon. But anyways, most of them are kind of cleared out of the way where you're fishing. So that's going to be pretty good. The fishing pressure is up a little bit for this time of year, just because the steelheading is pretty good. Now, once again, just be mindful, this time of year, it is November. Water temperatures can be an issue. If you get right out at first air and we had a cold frosty night, or got a cold front, don't be surprised you have a slow start to the mornings. We often go get an extra cup of coffee and concentrate efforts in the mid-morning to right through the afternoons can be your best fishing. So that's pretty much what's going on there. I can't think of anything else. I'll show you some flies in a minute. So here again, I made a shift, as I said, to Western New York Tribs on the brown trout fishing. With the browns, we have some canal water release and Oak and some of the surrounding creeks. We've got some canal supplementation, so water flows are good. Actually really nice. and we had some decent jags of fish come through, some good browns. I'm not seeing any monsters, you know, a handful of really big fish, but not the numbers. Most of the fish are those beautiful little, give or take a pound, right around 7 pounds, 3-year-olds, but lots of those. We're catching a few really, some good tankers. There's a nice jag of brown trout are in the systems. Oak is getting a handful of Atlantics. If you really want an Atlantic, go to Oak Orchard. It is busy, but you will probably find an Atlantic there if you fish around for a while. Few salmon, not a lot I'm seeing in the creeks. Oak is usually a little bit too busy for my taste, so I haven't been over there, but I suspect there's probably a few salmon over there. So that could be, if you're looking for a salmon, that might be a good an opportunity for you. There again, stay in the fast water. If you're over at the Oak, that'd be your best fishing. For flies, since there's been a lot of salmon in there, a lot of brown trout spawning, that egg bite is incredibly powerful. So I'm using like burnt orange, egg beaters, and kind of a burnt orange and 8s and 10s. Same thing with some bright orange, some Oregon cheese. I'm going to have a little show and tell here in a minute on flies. I'm using like a 3X or an 8-pound tippet, kind of get that fly nice little light. I'm finding most of my fish in the fast water. Some of the pools haven't really started filling up with fish yet, but I might find it. We are bumping into an odd rainbow in some of the creeks, so who knows what you could find. It's a nice mixed bag of fish. But the creeks out in western New York, the brown trout fishing is just ticking right along like it should. Water flows are good. We'll see what this rain does, because sometimes these creeks can, with a rain like we have, pop up, get muddy quick. However, we're still in a pretty severe drought, so yeah, even though we're getting a lot of rain, that ground is like a sponge, and that sponge has finally got softened up enough where it can really start to soak the water in. So we might not get as much runoff on that rain as we normally would, because that ground is just taking it. So we still need a lot of heavy rains to really get that ground saturated, so we can get those nice muddy runoffs that I love. But we are definitely off to a good start with the brown trout fishing. Hopefully, and I'm seeing good numbers of browns. So pretty much a good news for everything. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to call a timeout. I'm going to go find some flies, and I'll show you, and we'll do a little quick fly show and tell. Timeout. Time in. All right, a little bit of going over the gear that we're using right now. So that water being up and everything else, we're going to earlier you're using the scannies. I don't have them. I'm in the truck because it's raining for obvious reasons, cameras. So we're going to start shifting over to, this is a Skagit driver head right here that's going to go on one of my rods. This happens to be a 480, and I have a 11.5 foot 8-weight switch that I've been having a great time with. It's going to go on this, and I have a scanny set up on. So that's what that's for. Now understand, when you have, you know, for fishing pocket water with egg flies, a lot of times I like to run the Skagit driver head. I'll put on a medium mow tip, because this is some 10-foot medium mow floating, and then I'll run a 10-foot leader, and with like 2X, 3X tippet, and when I'm fishing egg flies. And sometimes I'll even add on an indicator. I kind of jokingly call them drift management devices. So that's how I set up on a fishing egg flies. Now, right now, with the water up like this, we're going to probably have to throw like T8, T11 sink tips, 10-foot these Moe sink tips in T8 and T11. So the Skagit turns those over really good. The scannies just die. They don't have the power into the tip to turn those heavy tips over. So we're starting to check inventory again. So all my rods are going to be losing their scanny lines now, getting these Skagits put on. And like I said, this is one of my leader designs. I do have a video in there tying this leader. Generally, I fish them. I make them around 10 feet. I like about a 10, 12-foot leader off my 11.5 foot switches when I'm fishing egg patterns. Now, going on for flies, egg patterns, some of these are going to look kind of familiar. I'm going to make the camera kind of focus on it. Hopefully you won't see much of my face, get it down here out of my face here. But this is a size 8 orange egg beater. I do tie them a few fly tires. The glow bug yarn here I'm using is white. I'm big into white UV for the veils. It does make it, trust me, I'm a UV fan. But this is an egg beater, an orange. We'll just kind of go through the fly colors where I've been having really good success with the brown trout. I'm catching a lot of brown trout. Is this guy right here. Put my hand up there, hope the camera focus on it. Not on me. Come on, camera, focus. Well, anyways, it's the same thing. Size 8. Having fun with the cameras here. Just bear with me. I like so you folks can get a good look at it. Anyways, trying to be a photographer at the same time as trying to talk. Size 8 egg beater. This is that burnt orange. That's a really good color. I've been catching a lot of our browns on that thing. What I'm going to do is play camera games here. And let's see here. Now, if the water gets ugly, as you all know, it ain't no use unless it's chartreuse. Same thing, and these SDS chartreuse works really good. Like out in the creeks, in the brown trout creeks, if the water gets dirty and muddy, even go to like a size 6 chartreuse woolly bugger. It could be very productive. I don't know what there is about those fish in chartreuse. Now the other two flies I've been having really good success with, especially if the water's clear. The orange nuclear roll bug. Once again, fly tires. I do dub the body with glow bug yarn, and I do use the white veil. The reason for the soft dubbed glow bug yarn bodies is it makes the flies soft and chewy. Brown trout, and especially brown trout, can. Here's this in Oregon cheese, same color. One of my favorite colors. Looks like a bleached salmon egg. Even on the Salmon River and the brown trout water, we're gonna have a lot of success with this color, especially in clear conditions. This is on an 8, and if they get a little crabby, I'll go down to a 10. So those are the egg patterns I'm using. But anyways, back to tying those things. That double glow bug yarn, they're kind of soft and chewy. Those brown trout will suck in a fly, go, I don't want it, spit it out so fast that if you didn't see it, you wouldn't believe it happened. You will not see it on the indicator, you will not feel it. It's just in and out. So with those things, they kind of go, whoop, I don't want it, and it gets stuck in their teeth, and it gives us, we can be eating a sandwich and have time to set a hook. So we have a chance at them. So those are the two. Those are the egg flies. Now, when I mentioned egg-sucking leeches, good old black, orange head, I'm still having a lot of success, and the guys are with the orange heads. If the water gets a little dirty, maybe want to try some chartreuse or maybe some pink. You know, always helps to constantly experiment. Here again, we've been doing really well with this. This is the purple one. I did tie it with a petite SDS. And that's really helped. I do like the UV if I can get my hands on it. If anybody of you guys know me, you know that usually I can't catch a cold with purple. I can fish until I wash the dye out of the flies. I'm catching fish with these things. So they're really working. So I was digging around looking for flies, and I talked about swinging right now. Some of the patterns you want to use if you want to swing. So this is my version of a fish taco, you know, black Charisse. Very effective, especially this time of the year. That Charisse is a good color. And when I'm swinging, I do like pink. And this poor thing has seen some action. It's been chewed on quite a bit. In fact, both of these have been chewed. You see the little tippet in there, it's still hacked off. This fly's done its job, and it looks like it. Talk about having a bad hair day. But anyways, the stuff like this size seems to be about ideal for the conditions. So that's the fly setup. That's what some of the riggings I'm used. Like I said, I like to show it to you on a rod, but I don't want to stand out and get the camera wet and explain it. But I did show you the lines I'm using. We're definitely shifting over to Skagits on our switch rods and our spade rods, and we're going back to normal motips and back to normal fishing. It looks like the low water conditions are over, and it looks like we're gonna have an excellent November, probably early December steelhead fishing. So that's it for now, folks. Just a quick reminder, I know George, Rick, and Hunter do have a few days available in November, late November, December on the salmon. I might have some dates available for brown trout water. Check with me after Thanksgiving. Basically, I want to see how the fishing holds up later in November and how the weather holds up. I don't like walking around icy rivers fishing empty buckets and hoping for a miracle. Now talk to me after Thanksgiving. I can give you a heads up on what the conditions are, what we have for fish, and what the weather's going on. And hit that little subscribe button, hit that bell icon when I do the next report, hopefully on time. I'll tell you what's going on. Until then, It's good meeting everybody that's been watching the YouTube channel. Thank you for coming up and introducing yourself, and see you in the water. Good fishing, folks. Still got plenty of it ahead of us. See you out in the water. This is Jay at JPEG Guides and Lost River Fishing. We are a year-round fly fishing catch and release guide service. We fish the Lake Ontario tributaries, and then during the spring and the summer we also fish the inland trout streams, classic dry fly fishing. During the heat of the summer we will do the warm water fishing for bass and pike. If you're interested in any of our outings or have any questions, please feel free to email us at fish@lostriversfishing.com. Hope to hear from you, and if you have any questions, feel free to contact us.